This episode discusses mental health issues and suicide. If you are struggling and you need help, please do reach out to someone. You can find helpline numbers in the episode notes of this podcast. Hello, I am Paula Bennett and welcome to my New Zealand Herald podcast, Ask Me Anything. One thing I've learned in life is it's never too late to learn something new. So on this podcast, I talk to people from all walks of life to hear about how they got to where they are and get some advice and guidance on some of life's biggest questions. My guest on this episode is a mental health advocate, an author, filmmaker, speaker, and has millions of followers on social media around the world, and a dancer. Jazz Thornton is the host of podcast Hope is Real and co-founder of charity Voice of Hope. Jazz is dedicated to sharing her lived experience and helping those struggling with their mental health. Jazz, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Were you born Jazz?
Jasmine.
Yeah, such a great name.
I've gone by Jazz since I was probably like 16. I feel like Jasmine, I feel like I'm getting told off.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. So people call me Jasmine if they're going to tell me off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like Jazz. I think it's really good. Okay, we're going to do quick fire so that we get into that. What's something most people don't know about you?
I can lick my elbow.
Oh. Like, everyone listening is trying to give it a go now. You can't. Well, you can. I can't.
It's supposed to be physically impossible.
Is it?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
like a known fact that it's supposed to be physically impossible. However, I'm bendy, I guess.
How did you find out that you could lick your own elbow?
I think I remember in primary school we read it in something that you couldn't lick it. So our whole class started doing it and I was like, oh, and I could do it. Yeah.
Okay, if you could time travel, would you rather go to the past or to the future?
I never want to live the past again, so I'll go to the future.
That's really fair. That's really fair.
Yeah.
And God, look how much life changes in 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
I just can't even fathom what it is in 20 years' time or something.
Yeah. I can't even, even the last year feels so crazy to look back on, and you look at decisions and be like, why the heck did I do that? I wouldn't do that now. You're just constantly growing, which I'd love. But yeah, I've got no idea.
So do you a lot of people know a lot about you, and I think that the Dancing with the Stars opened you up to a whole new audience as well. Congratulations on that. I thought you were spectacular.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it. And in that context though, what is it like having to tell that story and relive those teen mental health issues and suicide attempts? How, is it hard to kind of have to remember that and it be part of, I know it's part of who you are, but it's actually publicly shared?
I think it's got a little bit easier with time. I think in the first 5-ish years that I started talking about it was terrifying because back then there wasn't a lot of people that were talking about it. I know, JK had started talking about it, and but as a young girl, there wasn't a lot of that. But I think that every single time, and it happens almost every day if I go out, you have people come up to you that have chosen to stay or chosen to ask for help. And I think that that always for me combats how hard it can be to get up and be known for not wanting to be alive. So I don't think it's never going to be easy. I would rather be known for anything else. But those reactions and those responses is why I've done this for so long.
Well, I'll know you for your sparkly dresses and your dancing. There you go. But you've had a bit of a milestone birthday this year, 30.
Oh my gosh.
30?
No, what the heck?
Oh, 30s is so good.
I
promise. They're just so good.
I just I feel like I'm still a teenager.
Do you reflect? Are you a reflector? Do you reflect on, particularly on a milestone it's sort of where you were and where you've got to and what you're doing?
Yeah, I remember on my birthday at night just bawling my eyes out because it kind of hit me of I'm 30. There is no way I ever thought I would make it to see 30. I'm a grown adult now. You're an adult in your 20s, but I feel like there's still leeway. But I just started sobbing and was there was not a single part of me for most of my life that ever thought I would make it here or make it here and be happy.
Yeah.
That is
Okay.
insane to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the bad news about your 30s, though, is as you sort of indicate, you have crossed a threshold. And I think that when you're, world famous politician in sort of 10, 15 years' time, if you've done something silly in your 20s, you go, oh, yeah, I did, but I was 20 and a bit dumb, and, you can't say it when you're in your 30s.
I know, but also just everything starts to hurt a little bit as well. I woke up this morning, my back's a bit sore. I'm like,
oh, God.
It started.
Oh, don't even.
It started.
Don't even. So how are you? I mean, how is 30-year-old Jazz? Like you said, happy, but are you?
I am. I mean, I'm currently right now insanely busy.
Yeah.
I've got, I think, before the end of the year, like another 16 flights international, which is just
oh, wow.
too many.
Yeah. And is that speaking overseas and meeting with? Yeah. And whom are you speaking to?
I am on the 7th of October and leaving to go to New York, and I'm speaking with Kate Spade New York. They do this massive global summit, and it's amazing. I'm going to get to share the stage with some phenomenal people. Last year, it was me and Simone Biles.
Wow.
Which, I was after her. I don't know why they did that to me.
Yeah, that's not fair.
Directly after.
That's not good for your mental health.
No, I was like, I can roly-poly. It's like, what? And she had just won gold at the Olympics at this point as well. So I was like, cool. But yeah, there's some phenomenal people at this event. So I've done that every year, done stuff over in LA, Sydney, yeah.
And so is that sharing some of your story? You trying to what's your intention with the audience?
Every single time that I get on, no matter what stage it is, there's two things that I want people to know and believe by the end of it. And if not, I haven't done my job. The first one is that in all things, hope is real and change is possible. So I will often do that partially with my own story, but also there are so many other stories that can be shared as well. But you kind of want to be able to, have people know those two things. And I think if people don't at least maybe slightly believe, maybe possibly hope is real by the time I get off, then I haven't done my job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so you've written books, made films, you've got your podcast, co-founder of charity Voices of Hope, as I said. Tell me about why you set it up and what the charity does.
So Voices of Hope, we actually originally started in 2014. Myself and Genevieve, my co-founder, were 18 at the time. And we created it because when we were, teenagers, we were still teenagers at that time, but we both spent a lot of time in and out of hospital and out of psych wards, struggling our own battles, very different battles. Jen had a very, very serious battle with an eating disorder, anorexia nervosa, that nearly took her life, and OCD, and I had PTSD and depression and all the suicide attempts. And while we were in there, both of us spent so much time just trying to research and find someone else's story to know that we weren't the only ones going through it. I think you can have psychologists and psychiatrists tell you things can get better, but that's for someone that's struggling. When you just hear someone that's clinically paid to say that, it's really hard to fully believe that. So having that lived experience story for both of us was so important. But back then, we literally couldn't find anything. There just wasn't. People just weren't talking. And so we got connected through a mutual friend, and we decided that we wanted to try and learn how to tell those stories that we needed. And, as 18-year-olds, we didn't know what the heck we were doing. And we eventually kind of shut everything down and then relaunched after I went to film school. And then after that, it just kind of blew up because we found this gap of lived experience storytelling that people back then just weren't doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and with you, I mean, you sort of say 18 and I sit there and go, oh my goodness, it's so young, but that's what it needed, right? Not just all the oldies like me going, you'll be all right.
Yeah, and there was still such a, and I think that the older generation is starting to come around so much more with mental health now, but I think back then there was still a lot of the she'll be right stigma of not really understanding mental health and mental illness, and you had the likes of JK starting this conversation, but even then people were like, just toughen up, and so it did, we weren't just going to sit around and wait for, our parents aged people to step in and do something, because no one was.
Do you use the word resilience?
I do.
JK told me off.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Was okay. We're good friends, so he's allowed to tell me off. But, and I sort of get it, but it is such a great word.
I will tell you, when I was speaking in the New York conference last year, I got asked to specifically speak on resilience. And I do understand there's so much in that word that's kind of like, but there's one definition that I found that honestly, blew my mind because it's the definition of resilience specifically to do with objects, and it's about resilience in objects is about being able to return back to original form. And so in the thing that I was talking about, I talked about my child protection files from my automatic files when I was 3 years old, say that I went from being happy and bubbly to dull and lacking emotion. And I talked about resilience being, for me in my journey, about going back to my original form of what I should have been, which was happy, bubbly, and kind of getting back what was taken. And so I think resilience can be seen in so many different ways, but I also think right now it's been so kind of just tied to COVID times.
Yeah.
Because that's when we just heard it all the time.
All the time.
And it kind of just got washed down. And so for me, learning that, which obviously isn't a definition for people, it was the definition for objects. But I was like, man, I do feel like for me, resilience has been this life journey of going back to who I was supposed to be at my core without who I am changing from what these people did to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I speak on resilience a lot, just from that 17-year-old solo mum through to, a pretty big job and then actually getting out and trying to reinvent myself. And I always, so I've done a lot of research on it as well, and I think what fascinates me is that you can build resilience. It is actually a learned, and you can build it. And, it's a bit like I say, the first heartbreak you have, you think you're never going to get through it and this is the worst thing. And then by the time you're on, number 3 or 4, you're like, oh, this will pass.
Yeah.
It hurts, but this will pass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can actually learn it as well. I heard that you spend time in psychiatric wards and with suicidal young people and families. That's a lot to deal with. Tell me about why you do it and what sort of toll it takes on you.
I don't think that the toll that it takes will never amount to the toll that it's taking on the families and the young people. It's not something that we necessarily broadcast out that we go and do this, but it's been so important for both Jen and I because we both spent time in there as young people, and you just get to sit and be face to face with these kids that are facing real life issues every single day. I think it can become so easy to get detached from the real life issues because we can hear about it and there's so much conversation about it, but to be actually face to face with these people and their families is so different. And one of the last times that I went, there was a 9-year-old girl in there, most beautiful girl, and I just got to sit and colour with her, and her parents had been reading my book as they came in and they sat with me as well, and I've actually just recently heard from their family, and I think it just, for me, it is a constant reminder of why we've got to keep fighting for these young people, but also if I had someone when I was that age going through it coming in and being like, I was here once and you can get through this, I think that could have made a big difference. And even if it's just one person, sometimes they don't want to see you at all and that's totally fine, but if it's just one person that feels like maybe this isn't going to be there forever, because as a teenager you think it is forever, and it's not often in those environments that you get to see someone who has been in that exact place and has been able to get through it. So that's why we do it.
Wow. And even the families, I would imagine, just make such a difference for them.
Oh yeah, I honestly sob often from the messages that we get from families. We're still connected with some of the specifically the young girls that we spent a lot of time with. They were in the high care section, which is kind of fully under lock for quite a while. And me and Jen would go in and see these specific girls every week. And now a couple of them are doing super well. And we keep kind of hearing from their families of just thank you. And we know that we're such a small tiny part of it, like all we do is say, hey, there's hope, but I think that is something that was missing for a lot of people for so long. So yeah, it's been.
Do you, there's that sort of, do you think that our young people are suffering from more mental health, or do you think I imagine it's a combination that we're more open about talking about it and identifying it?
I think that we're honestly just talking about it more because, yes, the world is going through crazy, unprecedented times right now, as it was 30 years ago. 40 years ago, as it was through, people who lived through different wars, people when women were able to finally vote in New Zealand. Like, there's been so many generational things that people and young people have gone through. The biggest difference is we're talking about it more, and also globally we're more connected more than ever. So we're hearing a lot more stories. I think that the way in which young people these days are reacting and accessing things, and they do have this wide open net into the whole world at the tip of their fingers of what's going on, and that's really overstimulating. But I don't think this is something we haven't seen before. And also our suicide statistics for a very long time were representing middle-aged men.
Yeah.
Not like how young people were high, not as high as middle-aged men. So I think that it's always been here. We're just a lot more aware of it now. Yeah.
And I think back in my day, but if I go back to the 80s, and if I'm honest and look back at it now, I think a lot of, we didn't term them suicides, but some of the car accidents and all of that sort of stuff, and they were.
Oh, yeah. Our reporting is so out in New Zealand, especially even if you have drugs in your system, they often won't rule it a suicide. I had a friend of mine who I directed the show Jessica's Tree about, who died by suicide. I literally got her final suicide goodbye message, and her family had to fight for it to be ruled a suicide because they ruled it a drowning, which wasn't. Yeah, so it wouldn't have fallen into our suicide statistics. They had to fight for like 2 years for it to be actually this is what happened. So I think we're massively underreported still now.
Okay, so I was going to say, like, if you were in charge for a day and could make some government changes around how we deal with, or what we do with mental health, but I think that's not fair, so I'm going to give you a year.
A year?
Okay, because I was like, a day, like, a day's not fair, is it?
No, you can do much in a day.
So are we doing a good enough job, and should we be doing more, and what would you do differently?
No, we're not doing a good enough job. Yes, we should be doing more, and I think that a lot of the answers already exist. So I put up a Instagram story a while ago when I was dealing with a young person who was suicidal in the emergency department for 48 hours, and there was beds across the road in the mental health unit, but they weren't funded. So this young person instead was sitting in an ED room because she couldn't get into this bed. And so I had done a social media post about it. The Prime Minister had got involved. The Mental Health Minister had got involved. Anyway, I put up a story box on my Instagram specifically to ask these questions. I ask those nurses that are working specifically in inpatient mental health unit, what are the things that you think needs to change? I asked people in community, what do you think needs to change? And so asking these two different groups of people, they all have answers and they want to be able to talk, but a lot of the issues is they can't, and they're afraid to talk. I think the biggest thing I've seen, there is little to no communication between community and inpatient. So this young person that I was dealing with, who was highly suicidal, she was in with a community team. When she got put into inpatient, her community team dropped off the face of the earth. Wow. And then they came back and they were like, oh, we'll probably give you like psychology, but they wouldn't communicate while she was in inpatient. So she then gets let out of inpatient and community is still not there. And they say, we don't know if you're eligible for psychology.
And when you say community, you mean community-based mental health?
Yeah, all of our community-based services. So we've got like the government-funded community services who are underpaid, underworked, and staff are quitting at a crazy rate because they are underpaid and overworked. So I would be putting far more money into these, specifically the mental health wards. When I've been there in the past year, pretty much every single staff member is pulling double shifts at least 2, 3, 4 times a week. Wow. It's constant. But when the system itself is working against each other with your community service and with your inpatient service, people are just getting lost in the cracks constantly. And so I think, that's huge. But also just like being able to put more, it's all in resources, and I understand that we don't have an unlimited amount of resources, but I also know that we spend hundreds of millions of dollars on different campaigns, and we know that youth mental health, not just for youth, but in general in our country, is a huge pressing issue, but it's not getting the resources as if it is a big pressing issue. Yeah. And staff don't feel like they are being acknowledged for the risk, to be honest, that they're constantly putting themselves in, and they're burning out like crazy. So I think being able to acknowledge the workers will be something that will massively kind of build the workforce, because people don't want to go into mental health at the moment. They don't want to. It's scary. They are getting quite honestly, and what I heard frequently in this message response, because they felt safe to say it, was being abused by upper management, and that those that are at the top, they don't care. And so, to be honest, I think that's ultimately where it all starts. And I don't think that it's never going to be an overnight fix. But I think that if the people that we're employing to help our young people and our people with Aotearoa feel safe are being exploited, overused, and then are dropping off the field, we can't expect to have any form of sturdy mental health force.
No. Let alone how difficult the work is and how hard, and oh my goodness.
Yeah. They are the heroes.
That's quite confronting, actually, to hear all of that. It really is. So do you find, it is confronting, right? So do you find the work hard sometimes?
Oh, yeah.
For you? Yeah.
It's so hard. Like this whole time that I was dealing with this specific young person, I was in and out of calling my own therapist, because I was like, I'm someone who has all of the connections and knows what the heck I'm doing, and I cannot. I'm hitting wall after wall after wall, and that's from someone who knows it.
Yeah.
And it is infuriating, and you're screaming from the top of your lungs, this person is going to die.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? And then it falls back on you. You can only imagine how families who have no idea how the system works feels. It takes it out of you every day.
Yeah. And so how do you look after your mental health now? I mean, you said you ring your therapist.
Yep, she's on speed dial.
Yeah.
My dog has been such a huge
What sort of
thing.
dog have you got?
She's a little toy cavoodle, little cuddly little thing.
I'm a dog person.
I'm such a dog person.
Yeah.
I'm like the kind of person who will go sit at a dog park and just hope that they all come up to me. I'm like, please, come say hi. And also just like I will purposefully just try to put my phone down and go and hang out with friends and go to the gym. But people who know me as just Jazz rather than Jazz the advocate is huge for me. It kind of lets me have some kind of normalcy.
I like to hear that.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah. Do you still dance?
I tried. I TikTok danced. Does that count?
Okay, that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
I want a ballroom though. I'm seeing Dancing with the Stars in the US is kicking off at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. I miss it.
Oh, good on you. Okay, Jazz, we need to talk social media. There are parents out there that are just desperate for some advice. So let's take a break and we will come back real soon. Welcome back. I am absolutely honoured to have Jazz Thornton with me today, and we're going to talk now a bit about social media and the role that it plays, and hopefully get some advice for our parents. Okay, it's a huge part of what you do and how you connect. Did I see like 2.4 million followers on TikTok alone?
On one of my accounts, yeah.
That's crazy. Wow.
I have a second account on TikTok that has 1.3 million. It's a different audience as well. So it's like a wild,
Yeah. And how do you find TikTok? Is it mostly a positive space for you?
Yeah. I'd say it's mostly positive. I mean, it can definitely be very confronting because you see a lot of, new stuff come through as well, but it very much depends on what you're interacting with as to what you see. I see a lot of dog content.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. So a lot of your followers are younger, and so you're in a great position to share possibly a different side of social media. There's lots of talk about the dangers of it, but you have spoken out about calls to ban it for under 16s. So tell me why and where you sit on that.
I don't think genuinely that there is probably anyone else in this country who speaks face to face with more young people than I do. This year alone, while I've been on tour, I've spoken to over 100,000 young people.
Okay.
And so we've been having these conversations all year, and we've been literally, face to face, not just in one city, but around the country. Kids are going to use it anyway. They've all said that. They're all going to find a way to use it. They're way smarter than we are.
Yeah.
So that's number one. They're going to figure out how to do it. Number two, I could not even begin to tell you how many young people that have chosen to literally stay alive because of things that they found on social media that they don't have access to in their real life. I think that there is a very much undiscussed privilege with the idea of banning social media, because for when you've got a country like ours with a mental health specifically system that's so broken, and even our education system not that great, and you take away free access and free tools, that's very detrimental. But the amount of times when I'm out on school tours, and it will happen at every single school, hands down, that kids will come up hugging me, crying, saying, X amount of years ago, I was going to take my life, and then I saw this video and I chose to stay. And that's something that happens all the time. And actually I was going through my messages because I knew I was coming to talk to you. And I'll get hundreds every single day. This is one that I got at 11:35 p.m. last night. Hey Jazz, my name is Jasmine. Your account has helped me so much throughout this year. This year I wanted to take my life at the age of 17. I thought there was no point anymore. The night I had planned to end everything, I went on TikTok to delete my account, and the first video that came up was yours. It was your video of the story with the police officer when you're in the back of the car. I watched that video so many times that I lost count, and I'm so grateful for your account and your help. Thank you. I'm doing a lot better now. I know we don't know each other, but I promised to you that after that video, I would make it to 25 and repost all of your videos on my 25th birthday. That helped me through the darkest moments. That's the kind of message that I would see literally every day.
Wow. So taking that away from them, you're actually potentially, from your perspective, isolating them more and leaving them. And and while you were talking as well, I was just thinking, for so many, school is not a safe space, right? And then they're isolated from their own families because they don't feel they can talk to them about what's really going on.
That's what I'm talking about with privilege as well, is that a lot of the people that are so publicly pushing this ban right now, they are so privileged and lucky enough to have, a strong family and to be able to have these conversations with their kids and feel equipped to have these conversations with their kids. A lot of kids don't come from that. From me, there was no way in heck I could go home and talk to anyone in my family about this, because at times they were the people that were hurting me.
Yeah.
And that is what we've seen statistically so common in our country, that when you've only got one side of a debate that won't hear the other side, that it is such a privileged take. And I think the fear around social media is so real, and I understand that 110%. But I also think we cannot discount the lives of kids that choose to stay because of access to things that they're able to get on social media that are hope-filled. And yes, there's bad stuff on social media, but also there's a lot of good. And I'll also say, as someone who is in hundreds of schools, the phone ban didn't work.
Really?
Every single kid has their phone in their pocket. And including like your private schools, your decile 10s, all the way down to your decile, all of them, the kids have their phones in their pockets. So they're just doing it in secret. Same thing's going to happen with a ban. Kids will do it in secret.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was thinking about, those that are struggling with their sexuality, those that are struggling with, and that can feel isolating, and you're not ready to talk to someone about it, and you can actually go and see like-minded, realise you're not alone, actually, it's all going to be okay in the end, though thank goodness that's all turning around in society now, but there is that kind of reach that our kids need.
And you're also, like, I see one of the biggest arguments, there's been a couple of biggest arguments, right? One of them is specifically around grooming, which is huge. Also, what I will say statistically here in New Zealand happens most frequently within your own four walls. We see it. Our sexual abuse rates in this country through children are out the roof. So this is not something new. It's terrifying in the way that it's accessed, yes. However, the issue hasn't arisen from social media. The other thing that I've seen a lot of is around kids' like body image with what they're seeing online in these perfect lives. That's the opposite of what social media has done, because we grew up with the magazines and the Kardashians and the edited photos.
Yeah.
You're not
Everything
seeing that on TikTok. There's some of them, but you're seeing a wide variety of people and lives. And like, you've got one of my favorite people that come up is this African guy in this little village, and he films all of his TikToks in this hut. And it's like, just there's so much more accessibility that makes you realize, oh, I'm not nothing because I'm not this skinny, famous,
Okay. All right then. Strong arguments, I've got to say. I didn't have a strong opinion myself because I don't have an under 16-year-old, but I was kind of in that because, it is scary. I get that. But Hay is an ex-minister of what was then Child, Youth and Family. I could give you the stats on the percentage, and it's so high of it's someone they know. that's hurting them.
Yeah, that's what it was for me.
Yeah.
That's what it is for so many young people. And I think that the fear that parents feel is so justified of social media, but I don't think that fear goes away without education. And I think that's what we need to be focusing on, is educating parents on what their kids are looking at, what parental controls you can bring in, holding social media platforms to more account, all of that kind of thing. A blanket ban's not going to be the answer.
Okay. So let's talk now from, because there are parents out there freaking out, right? Don't forget the social media ban, but what are the signs that we might see that would mean that we should be concerned for our young person, or actually looking at some form of intervening or help that they might need?
I think that the biggest thing I will say for those who have young boys, the biggest sign of depression in boys is anger. And I think it can be very hard because obviously teenage years, everything's already super emotional and heightened and all that kind of thing. But if it's starting to be a lot more consistent and they're starting to withdraw a lot more and become a bit more aggressive in their communication or in what they're doing, anger is the number one sign in boys. So be looking out for that. But then you've also got, if they're starting to withdraw from things that they used to really love, which can be that they're wanting to change hobbies, but if they're not wanting to do anything, and if they're stopping maybe hanging out with friends as much, and you're starting to be like, why are they home all the time? Why are they in the room all the time? That kind of withdrawing is a really big thing for girls as well. And I think in the home it can be really hard to see that, because obviously when your kids are at school for 8 hours a day. The teachers are the ones that are seeing that, but you'll be able to see those changes, especially if you're willing to put the damn devices down and sit around a dinner table at night and actually have conversations with your kids. Then you'll be able to have a lot more of a consistent kind of view, I guess, of what's happening.
And I mean, you mentioned earlier a 9-year-old. So should we be looking for those sorts of signs as young as that?
This specific 9-year-old had a different diagnosed mental illness. So that was probably a slightly, all mental illness,
unfortunately,
but I think, we've got, for me, the first time I tried to take my life, I was 12.
Wow.
So it can be very young. I think the signs can change as you get older, but I think that general kind of anger, frustration within your boys, and it can happen within the girls, but that withdrawing is such a huge thing, and a kind of a flag to even just have the conversation to see if
should you have the conversation? I suppose so what should I do?
Have the conversation. I think that
how do you have that conversation?
Well, what I'll first say is that asking someone if they're struggling does not make them start struggling, or doesn't plant the idea in their head. And I think that's something that we've had for so long, right? We don't want to ask someone if they're suicidal, because what if it makes them suicidal?
Yeah.
That has almost never been the case, I can guarantee you.
Yeah.
I think having those conversations and asking, like, how are you really? And that's that one little word, which, we say how are you all the time, but in New Zealand we've scripted it as part of our everyday, hey, how are you? You're good, thanks, how are you? We can often do the same within our own four walls, because we don't know how to have those conversations. Adding on that one word, like, how are you really? Like, what's actually going on? We know that, things in the world right now are quite crazy. There's, is there anything you want to talk about? And there's a chance that, your teenager might continue to shut you down for a while. That's what they do. But if they know that consistently you're asking and are interested in what's going on for them mental health wise, that if they do, when they get to the point of wanting to ask someone, they'll come to you rather than messaging someone like me on social media, because you've created that space in the kind of long.
So you might not get the answer that you think is probably going on. They might lie to you.
100%. They most likely will.
I was going to say most likely.
But if you're more consistent with it, eventually they're going to say, oh, they, like my parent, my mum, my dad, whoever it may be, my caregiver is constantly asking me this. Like they actually care, and they're coming from a place of, I just want to make sure that you're okay, not because I want to tell you off, or because I think that, whatever it may be, that consistency I've seen has been really key for young people, and being able to open up to their parents, and just knowing that they can have that conversation. They don't have to start it. That's hard for them. If you're the one starting it, then you've broken it open. As uncomfortable as it can be, you've broken it open for them to be able to know.
Are you an advocate of the car ride? Because
love a car ride.
I know.
Yeah. Highly recommend.
I've had the best conversations with my own and my stepchildren in the car.
Because you don't have to stare at each other.
You're actually close.
Yeah.
You're physically close.
Yep. You're physically close without having to maintain eye contact.
Yeah.
Which is what teenagers find very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's big.
The car trip is really something. I'm a big one for that. I mean, but my daughter's like, oh God, I can't remember how old she is now. That's terrible, isn't it? 38, I'm going to go.
So she look 38 yourself.
Yeah. So she won't mind me talking about it at all. In fact, but like you, she would want the story shared so that there is hope, you know. But I was cleaning up her room and came across what was definitely a suicide note, you know, written on her bed. And she hadn't attempted suicide, but it was, and you know, in hindsight, she wanted me to find it, and it was the cry for help, right? Mm-hmm. And I did instantly go, oh my God, am I not around enough? Am I not listening? How have I not picked up signs earlier? You know, like you definitely go through that guilt thing as a parent, and they're so young. I don't know. So I just took like 2 days off work and took her out of school for 2 days, and we went and hiking in Piha.
Which I love. I really love, because also back then you didn't have access to all of the conversations we're having now, which don't exist. But back then, the fact that you did respond like that is something that the response of what have I done or have I not been around much is so common. And one of the most common things I hear from parents, they're so afraid to find out that their kid is struggling, because then that could mean that they've done something as a parent or they've failed as a parent. And it's just most often not the case.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much going on for a young person that can make them feel that way. And it's most often it's not your fault. And the fact that you did the best thing that you thought you could do, which I think is fantastic, to take time off work shows her that you're taking it seriously, you do care. I think actions can often speak louder than words. For her to get to that point of writing that note at 13, of saying I'm not okay, and to have a mum who listened to that and said, let's do something.
Yeah.
That's everything.
You know, and over time, because in some respects, I just wanted us both to slightly get out of our own heads, you know, which is why the hike, you know what I mean? Like, let's actually get out of our comfort zone, you know, let's not sit here and have a heart-to-heart right now and try and delve into everything. But what actually came out of it was that she was being absolutely picked on and bullied at school. And it's ridiculous that she went in with curly hair one day, and someone went, you look like a poodle. And then they got to the point where they would bark at her when walking past her and the things, and she was just treated like a dog, literally, to the point where she'd got to writing the note was that someone had left dog food in her locker and things, and you know, like it just got to that. And of course it wasn't in a week, it had happened over months that this kid was living with. I changed her school.
Good.
I'll be really honest, it was just like, they're not going to listen. It's not going to change for you. You know what I mean? You need a fresh start.
Yeah. I love that. That's honestly,
I'm sorry.
a lot of kids.
I moved house. I was renting. So I had the luxury of actually being able to. But I just sat there and just went, there's absolutely no reason why she has to be in that school. And so we just moved suburbs and gave her a fresh start.
It's so infuriating to know that out of all these years, you know, so she's maybe 38, 39 now, at 13, that this was happening, and now this is still happening in our schools, that in between that time there's still not been anything that's been able to be developed. And obviously kids will always be kids, right, for sure, but it's infuriating that it doesn't feel like us as a society and a country have done anything to protect our kids when it comes to that. Because a lot of the time schools still don't want to take responsibility for it. And so it's really hard as a parent to navigate that and to navigate things that are going on at school, because you do feel like you're constantly hit with a brick wall. But that's where advocating for yourself and for your kid is the hardest thing to do.
Well, and then sometimes the kid that is being bullied and mistreated, obviously, not obviously, for some of them, their own behaviour becomes worse, right? You know, because they're angry.
100%.
Right? They're depressed.
Yes.
As you say, that manifests itself in anger.
I acted out massively when I was a teenager because I was so deeply struggling and getting harassed at school.
So then what does that parent do? You go to the school and you just go, you know, yes, my Johnny may have pushed, you know, Bruce, but actually this is what's going on in the background. They're going, no, well, it's just we've got zero tolerance against any kind of violence, and we're not interested in the fact that Johnny's being picked on a daily basis and his mental health. But that's where it's happening. It's happening today, isn't it?
Yeah, it 100% is. And then it's like, well, what's the zero tolerance that you have for? Is it literally just for one type of violence or for this type of violence? Because this type of violence in your brain and mental violence, I would say, honestly, far longer damages than physical violence has. For, in a schoolyard, if someone's getting punched over, horrific. If someone for a year is getting told you're not good enough, you're whatever it is, that becomes a part of who you think you are.
Yeah.
That changes your brain chemistry. And so I think when it comes to zero tolerance, I would be questioning a school on that of like, well, okay, what is your zero tolerance on?
Yeah.
Because the impact that this is having on my kid, he's acting out like this or she's acting out like this, but you need to address the root issue, which shouldn't fall on the parents, to be honest, when it's in a school ground.
Yeah.
Shouldn't fall on the parents. There should be a lot more legislation and, things within schools that can protect that.
Okay, so now we'll go into a bit harder. So for parents out there that are listening is, so where if you think you need far more help, and because I'm not advocating change your kid's school, I'm just giving an example of what I did.
Yeah.
The hiking is good. But what I'm, where do you go for help? How do you do that reach? Your own media, social media and all that sort of stuff, connecting them into that. Is that worth doing? I mean, what would you advise?
Yeah, I mean, we've got, as much as we talk about, our system being broken in New Zealand, what I really want parents to understand and young people to understand is that the people within our system care deeply.
Yeah.
The professionals care deeply. And so while there can be wait lists and it can be hard to get in, these people, they do care about your children and they do care about you. And I think that, being able to go, whether it's your school counsellor, I think often it's better if you're able to get them out of a school counsellor and into a community.
Okay.
Just because the school counsellor sees every child in the school and sometimes you might need more support. Going in through your GP, there's obviously things like Umbrella Friday that you can get access to free ones. There's also different programs that has access to free sessions as well. So if you ask your GP, then they'll be able to help kind of refer to get the ball started for free counselling no matter where you are. But I will say the biggest thing in helping your teenager is to know that it's also not weak for you to ask for help yourself. I think no parent can do that by themselves, and you can become so focused on trying to help your teenager, which is so needed, but when you're neglecting yourself in the process, that's really hard. And it's okay to, you can literally call in our country with 1737 as a parent, you can call and say, I don't know what to do. I'm struggling with this. Like, it doesn't have to just be a young person that's struggling or someone themselves that is struggling with their mental health. If you're a parent and you're freaking the heck out and you can't access anything straight away, call 1737.
1737. We're going to put that in the notes on this episode.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
So there you go. Well,
yeah.
she's 38. She probably needs to counsel me. But I've got grandchildren and, I think we need that. So that's really good. I thank you so much for that because it is kind of scary and it's kind of confusing out there and thank you for everything you're doing. Okay, for finding this segment, I would love to know what is the best advice that you've ever been given and who was it given by?
The advice that completely and utterly changed my life was from a woman called Esther. She spoke at my school when I was 12 years old, and I reconnected with her in Auckland when I was 16.
Wow.
And she came to me after what was my final ever suicide attempt. And I remember sitting there bawling my eyes out, and she goes, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "I'm so tired of fighting." And she said, "Jazz, what do you think the definition of fighting is? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't know if you've been fighting. I think maybe you've only been surviving. And it's only when you learn how to fight, that's when the change that you're longing to see is going to happen." And at the time... at the time I was like, I've been fighting so hard.
Yeah.
But when you look at the definition of surviving and fighting, survival is to continue to live or exist in hardship, manage to keep going in difficult circumstances. It's important. It's what keeps us going.
Hey.
Times are tough.
Yeah.
But it's also what keeps you believing and living your life as if this is always how it's going to be. Fighting is to engage in a battle or war, fight to overcome and destroy an adversity. Very different to the definition of surviving. And what I realized was that I had lived all of my life believing that my illness was my identity, therefore nothing would ever change. And it wasn't until I learned how to actually fight back and what that looked like for me, of actually engaging in therapy and writing down core beliefs and what people actually truly thought about me of, Jazz, we love you, Jazz, we're proud of you, the practical steps to fight. That's what saved my life. I never ended up attempting again after learning that process of fighting.
How fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't ever thought of it like that and from that perspective. Really interesting.
Well, I think because I did feel like I was fighting for so long, and I was like, how do I keep ending up in these circles? But I had been going into therapy, not listening to my therapist. I had been just like, there was no part of me that was actively fighting. I was fighting to stay alive.
Yeah.
That was in survival. And things did only change when I learned to fight. And you can't fight by yourself. Like that's really, and it's a big thing to ask people.
Yeah.
But it was just one day at a time. What does fighting look like for you? How do you destroy this adversity? And, you know, for some people, it might be going and getting on medication to just start to balance it first so that you can learn to fight. It changed everything for me.
Wow. Okay, I've done all the asking. So this is the part where if you want to, podcast is called Ask Me Anything. So you get to ask me something if you would like to.
Oh, I have so many questions.
Yeah, but that's because you're a podcaster yourself.
Yeah, so let's turn this into Hope is Real and flip it over now. No, I want to know, like, while we're on the subject of mental health, growing up for you, was that something that you ever struggled with, or was it something that you even identified as something that could be?
Oh, so I definitely had my struggles in my teens, but I believed what everyone else told me was that Paula's just difficult. Paula's high maintenance. Paula is, you know, the stroppy one. Paula is the, you know, if it's not all about her, then she causes upset in the family. And, you know, when I look back, I'm sure there's some elements that I was difficult and everything else, but actually that wasn't, I was screaming for help. And I was, you know, doing all of what you're saying because I couldn't sort of manage in my own head. And I had a lot of withdrawal and solitude and all of that sort of stuff. So I never called it mental health because I didn't believe that I did have, if you like. But when I look back, I can certainly see episodes where I was quite depressed and withdrawn, and any time I tried to raise it, it was just like, oh, she's difficult.
So if you could sit face to face with teenage you, knowing all of that and what you know now, what would you say to her?
Oh, I know, and people don't believe this about me, but it was also a real lack of confidence. And because I was fairly out there, but I would just go, actually, you're strong and there's nothing you can't do. And you know what I mean? Like, grab the world now, because actually you've got the ability to do some pretty extraordinary things. And I'm lucky enough that I did find that in my sort of 30s, but you know, like all of that angst and unhappiness and bad choices and putting myself in dangerous situations multiple times, you know, I didn't, if I'd had the confidence and believed in me more, I didn't have to go through that. You know, I should have been at university at 18.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was the first person in my family to go anyway when I did go in my mid to late 20s. But, I should have been, I should have used the intellect that I had. But I was sort of struggling so much.
Yeah. Which, hindsight in that is such, I love asking people that question because I feel like actually, like it's so easy to be like, oh, like, you know, everything will turn out okay, blah, blah, with that hindsight. But being able to actually look at the emotions of everything that you were feeling about who you are and yourself, and being able to just actually be like, you're actually going to be okay.
Yeah.
Look what you're going to be. Like, you're going to freaking do all these crazy things is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I love that about you.
Oh, cool. Oh, well, hopefully we've given a bit of hope to people out there. And thank you so much, Chaz, for joining me today. Thank you for all of the advice that you've given to our parents. So if they want more, go and look at
voicesofhope.org.
Yeah.
Things on there.
And everything's there. I went and had a look the other day, and so there's so much information for you all out there, so please do that. And that's it for another episode of Ask Me Anything. If you have enjoyed this episode, please follow Ask Me Anything on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you check out some of our past fabulous guests while you're there. I'll be back next week. Look after yourself. I'm Paula Bennett. Ask Me Anything. Goodbye.